At 7 a.m. local time just after sunrise, one of those quiet mornings that looks peaceful until you remember every field, every hill, every tree line is under someone's radar. The pilot's route had been used only a handful of times in weeks, mostly because Russian surveillance made it almost suicidal. But the target, a command hub believed to be coordinating new offensives, was too valuable to ignore. Ukrainian intelligence had reportedly intercepted chatter suggesting a rare gathering of high-ranking officers inside that building. If true, and nothing was confirmed, taking it out could delay operations across the region for days. The aircraft wasn't the newest or the most fuel-efficient, but it was the only one that could carry the one weapon that mattered. Everything depended on hitting a precise altitude at a razor-thin moment. Too early, and every radar in occupied territory would see him. Too late, and the weapon wouldn't glide far enough. For most of the outbound flight, things were quiet, until a sharp alarm snapped him back to the threat screen. A radar signature appeared earlier than expected, and from deeper inside enemy territory than anything Ukrainian crews had cataloged. Something new was looking straight at him. The radiation pulsing across his sensors was strong enough to trigger every priority alert. Long-range radars don't sweep the sky anymore. They carve the air into electronic beams, flickering like invisible spotlights, and one of them had locked onto him even though he was flying low enough to startle birds. He dropped even lower, letting the terrain swallow him. Flying that low is a bargain with the earth. It protects you, but it leaves no room for mistakes. One twitch of the hand, and the ground punishes you instantly. As he wound through a valley, the missile time to impact counter flickered with numbers that made no sense. Either the radar had lost sight of him, or something bigger was happening behind the scenes. Then the warning softened. Still dangerous, but farther away. He'd shaken the first hunter. He didn't know yet that escaping that lock had awakened something far worse. Just as he stabilized, a new set of signals lit up. Closer, sharper, undeniably hostile. These weren't from long-range batteries. They came from tactical systems designed to catch anything skimming below the horizon. For years, Ukrainian crews had studied these systems, but military forums whispered that some units had received new software, faster reacquisition, smarter tracking. No confirmation, but whatever was pinging him fit those rumors perfectly. By dodging the first radar, the pilot had drifted straight into the kill zone of the second. And these operators specialize in killing low-flying aircraft. The exact profile he was trapped in. Fuel consumption spiked. Every violent maneuver drained minutes he couldn't afford. With no other options, he executed a steep bank into a shallow dive. Risky, but it pushed him out of the center of their beams. For a brief moment, the cockpit fell silent. But silence in combat is never safety. It only means the next threat is closer. New threats appeared, and this time, there was no altitude left to hide in. Frontline defense systems don't try to predict your escape path. They saturate the sky with missiles, each covering a different angle, betting that at least one will get close enough. Some missiles were autonomous. Others were controlled by human operators, people watching him weave through the landscape, adjusting guidance in real time. Operator-guided missiles are terrifying for one reason. You can't outsmart a trained human watching your every move. He dumped an enormous burst of countermeasure. Chaff clouds exploded behind him, each strip scattering radar waves unpredictably. One missile veered off, another hesitated, but the rest kept coming. He forced a final break, sacrificing altitude he didn't have. The closest missile lost lock and slammed into the ground. He'd survived the volley, barely. But now he was low, slow, burning fuel far too fast. The perfect target for enemy fighters. Far behind him, two enemy fighters received fresh tracking data. Their radars could monitor multiple targets at once. And with his aircraft damaged and energy collapsing, they didn't need to get close. They could kill him from beyond visual range. He zigzagged through the landscape, engines straining. Reports claimed these fighters had recently shifted to long-range loadouts, something analysts suspected but couldn't confirm. Whatever the truth, the tracking signals on his screen told the same story. They had him, and they weren't letting go. Strangely, the pilot felt calm. Later, he joked it was the part of the mission where time slows down. Whether he meant it or not, he had no choice now. He had to climb toward the altitude he'd sworn he'd never reach. He needed height to complete the mission. His enemies needed him to climb. For all of them, this was the moment. The climb had to be perfect, not too fast, not too slow. The weapon beneath him needed a precise combination of altitude and speed to glide the required distance. He'd rehearsed it dozens of times. None of those rehearsals included a hypersonic missile closing in. With seconds to spare, he reached the release window. Indicators flickered green. Navigation aligned, wings ready, fuse armed. Releasing the weapon wasn't dramatic. No sound, no jolt, just a subtle drop as it separated from the jet. For 3 agonizing seconds, he had to fly straight, holding formation with a weapon while a missile hunted him from behind. Then the green light vanished. He rolled away hard, engines screaming. Behind him, the weapon opened its wings and began its lonely glide. The pilot had done his part. Now the mission depended on a guidance package fighting through one of the most hostile electronic environments on Earth. Once free, the weapon shifted from cargo to autonomous machine. It glided steadily, making tiny corrections as enemy jammers hammered its signals. Russian EW units were flooding GPS bands with noise, and new jammers had appeared in the region only days earlier. The bomb's system switched to hardened encrypted signals, more resistant, but not invincible. Between GPS updates, inertial navigation kept it on course, though drift grew with every second of interference. For a moment, that drift pushed it near the threshold of missing the target entirely. Then, through the electronic storm, 4 satellites broke through. GPS locked. The weapon corrected sharply, aligning with a cluster of nearly identical buildings. It switched to stored imagery, scanning for roof patterns, heat signatures, and structural markers from reconnaissance photos. When it found a match, it committed. Near the target, the weapon tipped into a steep terminal angle, maximizing penetration without losing speed. A last-second wind correction nudged it into perfect alignment. A final GPS update confirmed it. The impact wasn't Hollywood. No fireball, no dramatic plume. It punched through the roof, burrowed deep, and detonated with a delayed fuse. The blast collapsed floors in sequence, each level falling into the next in a controlled cascade that spared neighboring structures. In under 5 seconds, the command post ceased to exist. Far away, the pilot skimmed back toward friendly territory, barely 100 feet above the ground. His aircraft was damaged. His fuel was low. His arms shook from adrenaline, but he made it across the line. And only then, only when the base came into view, did he let himself breathe. The mission had succeeded, but only because of instinct, timing, and maybe a bit of luck and bye for now.